Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Power of One. No episode introduction this time because this one is the Q&A for 1,000 subscribers. And again, thank you all so much for your support so far. It has been astounding, far beyond anything I could have hoped for. And we truly are building a community here, and I absolutely love it. I've got my list of questions here, and part of why I'm doing this is because for me, it is very difficult to volunteer information about myself. A lot of people who have had times in their lives where they've been ignored or didn't have the support that they needed, really. When you're pushed to the side, or at least made to feel like you're a second-hand person, it can be very difficult to volunteer information about yourself because you don't feel like anyone wants to know that. And this feeling may be all in your head. People may tell you that they want to know about you, but sometimes you get that feeling that when you start talking about yourself, they get bored. Whether or not it's true, you still have that feeling. It is a very bad mindset to be in, and one that I have been actively working against. One of the best things that I've found is I am great at answering questions. If somebody asks a question about me, I can answer it. I can talk for hours. Trust me, some of my friends know this and aren't too fond of it. I'm kidding. But if you can figure out some of those little asides to get past your brain's hangups, it can work. So I asked for questions from commenters, friends, and I got a list, a kind of diverse list here. So how about we just hop right into that? Pull that up here. First question was, what got me started collecting pops? That one's actually really easy. Loot Crate I got a free one somewhere. It was like a free trial thing back when they were first starting years ago. And I got my first pop figure there, and I thought they were really kind of cool. You know, it was a little more detailed than the chibi designs for things. And they obviously came in things that I love. So I was like, oh, this is really cool. And, you know, I stayed subscribed to the Loot Crate thing and just kind of kept getting them. For the longest time, I didn't realize that you could buy them other places. So the pops that I was getting was from there. And then pops really kind of took off, and so many more places started carrying them. So instead of relying on Loot Crate, I just went out and started buying my own. And of course, you know, every time there was a new movie coming out, especially Marvel movies were great at that one, there'd be new variants, so I'd have to pick up my favorite characters. And yeah, some of the double-sized ones that were picked up, like I've got a Thanos double-sized one where he's sitting on top of his spaceship. I've got the double-sized one of the Hulkbuster armor. My absolute favorite one, though, Grand Admiral Thrawn. This was actually a gift from a friend of mine because I couldn't find it myself. And that kindly fucker made sure he got hold of it and gave it to me. Grand Admiral Thrawn, he's in my top tier for literary villains. You know, he was introduced in a book series, so I can say that. But I absolutely love that one. It actually stays on top of my computer the whole time. It doesn't stay with the rest of the collection. He is there to inspire me. So that's how I got into collecting pops. Next question. If you can add an item to Captain America's little book list for things he should check out, what would it be? That's actually a really good question. Obviously, the first thing I suggest is just open an internet browser and go. It's really, really hard. Like maybe the History Channel website. Like check out half the Oscar winners from the 40s till now. It is so hard to answer that question. because I don't know if there's like one definitive thing that I would suggest to someone in that situation. You know, it unfortunately, for my opinion, it takes a much broader education when you're in a situation like Caps was, you know? So, very difficult one to answer, but I don't know. Movies that have defined generations, the rise of video games, rise of the internet, I mean, all sorts of stuff. It's very hard to pick one thing. Let's see. Is there anything in the way that I viewed an episode, character, or story beat in Avatar that has changed from the way I saw it in my reaction videos, specifically because of comments or in general, that kind of thing? That is a really damn good question. I want to say maybe Sokka's sexism. After having a discussion with several people in the comments, it wasn't that he was trying to be sexist. It was more that he was left in charge of mostly women, children, and elderly when all the male warriors left. So he was of that mindset that there aren't many women that can fight. So I don't think it was intended sexism, like he just immediately thought all women were weaker. So I think that was one story beat with him that definitely changed from when I first saw it. Because I first saw it and I'm like, oh shit. And I liked this character. I definitely have to say that's the most prominent one I think that comes to mind. Let's see. Will I ever make gaming related content? Yes. Sort of. Maybe. So here's the thing. One thing that unfortunately the YouTube gods do is if you put a spin on the videos that you start posting, it screws up the algorithm and you won't get kind of the exposure. I've thought about doing review videos of like cutscene compilations for games. I have also been working on setting up a Twitch account for specifically gameplay stuff. I would very much like to do that, and obviously I'd take suggestions for gameplays. I think me playing half the horror games out there would be hilarious because I'd be jumping left and right. That's not usually my thing. I am always willing to try new things, and I know without a doubt there's games out there with stories that rival most movies and books. Like one that I very much want to play is Senua's Sacrifice. The one where she's dealing with schizophrenia, and I have heard that was one of the most astounding games to come out in a very long time. Very immersive and very accurate in its depiction of some of those things. So that one is definitely on my list. Down in the comments, put down some games you might like to see me play if I do get that Twitch channel going. I may do like highlight videos from some of the Twitch streams and post them here. I guess my other question is, what kind of gaming related content would you like to see? That's a valid enough question, because if you just want me to kind of react to situations in games, cutscenes in games, I can gladly do that. Hell, I'll bang out through them before the day's out. But if it's full like actual gameplay stuff that you want to see, it would probably be a little easier to do that over on Twitch than on YouTube. And then, like I said, I could put highlight videos here. So again, let me know down in the comments what you may like to see and how you would like to see me go about that, because I am more than willing to throw some gaming related content. When I first started, I actually posted some videos, some of my original videos, a playthrough of 7 Days to Die with the Darkness Falls mod, and then I think I posted one video of Left 4 Dead. I do enjoy zombie shoot 'em up games and survival games. The reason I stopped the 7 Days to Die ones is at the time it wasn't playing well with OBS. So it kept kind of glitching out, and I had played that game a lot and had never had problems with it until I started using it with OBS. So one of the worst ones was when it crashed in the middle of a Horde night. That sucked. So, yes, I would be more than willing. Let me know what kind of gaming related content you'd like to see, and if you would like to see it over on Twitch or here. Next question. Favorite series you've ever watched, animated or live action? Oh, you're asking me to pick between my children. Oh. I don't know if I have one. I could give you a few. One of the things that I see when it comes to stories is you can't compare apples and oranges. Like two of my absolute favorites, MASH and Babylon 5. You cannot compare the two because they are not even in the same genre or style. One is dramedy, comedy and drama, beautifully paired together in one of the best ways I've ever seen on television. And sci-fi drama, which with its overarching stories and character depth, I absolutely adored. So it's very hard for me to pick one when different shows shine in different ways. But yeah, MASH, Babylon 5, Avatar is definitely in my top 10 thus far. One of the big things for me is to whether a show is truly worth it is how they stick the landing when they finish the show. So I will have to watch through season 3 to truly decide where on that list Avatar sits, but it's got a strong showing so far. 100% strong showing. I'm a big fan of Rick and Morty just because of its unconventional humor, and I enjoy things that surprise me, and Christ does that show do it. I am a fan of the Star Trek world. Obviously, some of the earlier shows were still kind of campy. Some of the stuff they made recently, like Picard, is astounding. Season 1 of Discovery was okay. Absolutely love season 2 and 3. Ooh, Stranger Things is a well-crafted masterpiece. They are definitely sticking to their roots, like keeping with that 80s vibe and the horror motif in different ways. So I very much like that. There is one. Oh, I'm going to regret this because I can't remember the name of it. So with no video cuts whatsoever, I've suddenly remembered the name of the show, Raised by Wolves. A absolutely fantastic show done by Ridley Scott, who has done movies like Alien, and I believe Ridley Scott did Gladiator as well. An astounding creative mind, and I loved Raised by Wolves. It was a beautiful show. A little odd, but I mean, that was part of its charm, really. The world that he was building with that one, I really hope it gets a season 2. So, asking me to pick one of my children is just cruel, but there you have some of my favorites. I'm sure I could come up with a top 10 list at some point. Let's see. What is my favorite bestiary creature design, and why is it Appa Sky Bison? It very much is the Sky Bison. Partially because I'm still trying to figure out how they got a bison, a beaver tail, and 6 legs into the same creature. I want to know what they combined. Like, that is so weird. And yeah, platypus bear and all the different bestiary creatures that have come out of that are just so strange and so creative. And kudos to the writers, because Holy crap, to think that stuff up. Are they just flipping through a big book of animals? Be like, hey, this would be neat to combine right here. We can make a plot point out of that. Oh. So it is Appa as much as that joke was being made, but mostly because I want to know what they tried to combine to actually come up with that. So, next question. Do you have any specific hopes for character arcs in the final season? I do, actually. Obviously, they are playing up the budding romance between Katara and Aang. What I would like to see is Toph end up happy with someone. They've charged headlong into the disability thing, and I absolutely love that. I want to know if they are going to introduce anyone that sees past the blindness and just sees her. So that kind of thing is actually one thing I very much hope for. I had hope for Zuko to come to Team Avatar, but now he's back in the palace, and while it could be a trick just to get close to his dad to try and shut things down, I get that. Man, that struck me to my core. That hurt. I would pay money for an entire episode of Sokka and Iroh just sitting there talking tea, talking haiku, talking philosophy. I would pay for that. I don't think it'll ever happen, but good Lord, you said hopes. That is a hope. All right, next question. What are my thoughts on Iroh in the live action movie? And it was specifically spelled Iroh in the question. Oh, yeah. Iroh. I hated him. That show, or that movie, was devastatingly bad. It's like somebody had seen a Cliff's Notes versions of the anime, and they didn't get an actor that looked anything like him. Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay, he had long gray hair. So? That actor's a good actor, though. Don't get me wrong. But, I mean, I believe, if I remember correctly, that actor's the one that was trapped with Tony Stark in the first Iron Man movie, when they were trapped out in the desert. It was terrible because there was very little of the philosophy or caring when it came to Iroh and Zuko. Like, when they had that separation scene when Zuko went into the Northern Water Kingdom, and it was a very touching moment in the anime, and I felt absolutely nothing when it came to the movie. And again, nothing against the actors. Both the actors in that scene were great actors, but so that was my opinion on that. Favorite TV show growing up? Hands down, Transformers. Like, that was my absolute favorite. I would always get upset when I missed it. It was funny because at an early age, I became a little bit fascinated with anime and didn't know it. At like 5:30 in the morning, one of our local channels showed Star Blazers, and I should have been a Riddling kid, but I wasn't. So there were days I was up at like 4 in the morning for no explicable reason. And I happened upon it, and I was fascinated with this cartoon that was a lot deeper than a lot of cartoons that were out there. And I absolutely loved it. I could catch it sometimes, but half the time when I get up that early, my mom would be like, go back to bed. So it was difficult for me to keep up with it, but it was. I distinctly remember at a very young age hoping I wasn't late to see it. But yeah, no, the one that I always desperately made sure that I was watching was Transformers, because Transformers. Let's see. What book character can I most relate to? Oh. Mm. Man. That is such a question. And I have read so many damn books. It is a difficult one to answer. I suppose one of the questions I'd have to ask in return is in what way? There are days I relate to the villains, case in point, the Grand Admiral Thrawn thing. There are days that I relate to the heroes, like Ron Weasley, who never has any idea what's going on. That's a thing. And there are days that I relate to side characters, you know? Oh my god. It is almost impossible for me to pick one. Although, if you're talking about, here, we'll go with the legacy Star Wars books, the old canon. I would almost say Han Solo, not because he's cool or anything like that, but because he always found himself in situations that were bigger than him, surrounded by people that were bigger than him, and he always tried to keep up. Like, I will never be Han Solo cool. I get that. But in the regard that all the things he always found himself in the middle of that were always so much bigger than him, I can relate to that. And that's how I feel a good amount of the time. Let's see. What got me into movies and television? That one's easy. My father. My dad was... I got exceedingly lucky when it came to parents. Both of my parents were pretty awesome. My dad was one of the greatest men I've ever known. He was very thoughtful, very empathetic. Most of his friends looked to him like the psychologist of the group, if you will. I didn't understand at the time, but my folks got divorced when I was really young, so on my weekends with him, I'd be kind of upset because people would call him, and he'd be on the phone for an hour, helping them with some pretty severe problems, because he was, like, I know he was a unofficial sponsor for a couple of guys in AA, unofficial because he never went through the program himself. He never really drank. But when these guys called him, he had to answer. And he would apologize to me. And he did say a couple of times, I hope, beyond hope, that you will understand when you're older. And I do. I 100% do now. I don't hold it against him. But my earliest memories of my father were watching shows with him. You know, MASH actually is one of the best ones. MASH, he would always put on an old VHS of one of the seasons that he had recorded off television, and we'd watch MASH as we ate dinner or lunch or something like that. Watch through a couple episodes, keep going with our day. My dad introduced me to all sorts of movies. My dad introduced me to science fiction. And his love of it, and it just spawned such a love of it in me. My dad, at the age of, when I was 12, took me to the theater to see Nightmare on Elm Street 3. And spent the movie explaining to me how they did the makeup effects, so I wasn't terrified. He was quiet, we were in the back, it wasn't a full theater, nothing like that. He wasn't that guy. But I remember the look on the ticket taker's face when my dad asked for 2 tickets, just looked down at me. He's like, "Are you sure?" But the stories and TV and movies, that love was instilled in me by my dad, and it's one of the greatest things that he ever instilled in me. Like, as I grew up and found stuff on my own that, wouldn't enter his orbit, I introduced him to it, and he was fascinated by some of the things I would find. it was one of the best bonding things that he and I had, and I love him for it completely. I guess I should put the caveat in here right now. Both of my parents have passed away, so it's one of the memories that I hold so close to my heart and absolutely love him for. So that is where my start of movies and television was. Next question. Plans for the future beyond Avatar? Well, if you mean Avatar proper, after this I am planning on doing Legend of Korra. After that, it's going to be up for suggestion. I will watch whatever you folks point me towards. There are, I'm still going to try and interject movies every now and then. I do plan on still doing the Marvel shows as they come out. I'm also thinking about doing some of the new Star Wars content as it comes out. I know the Bad Batch cartoon just recently aired, so I may start doing that one soon. But yeah, hey, y'all point me to whatever. I'm going to start making a list, and I'll create a poll, either in the community thing on YouTube or over on Twitter, something, just to figure out what to do next. And just throw it down in the comments. After Korra, what do you think I should do? Because it won't be terribly long before we're done with Avatar, and Korra's not that long, if I remember correctly. So those are my future plans. Also, as I said, to possibly integrate Twitter into the mix here, which would be great. Get gaming content out there, so there may be some of those videos as well. That's as far as my plans go right now. Where were you? The next question is, where are you from originally, and where do I live? Born and bred in Michigan, in the United States. I was born in a city named Lansing. It's the capital of the state, and I currently reside in Grand Rapids. I've moved all over the state. I've lived in the Upper Peninsula. Beautiful country up there, but if you are not ready for it, the winters will kill you. I've moved to east side, west side of the state, lived all over. I haven't lived anywhere outside of the state, but I visited, I want to say, probably 35 out of the 50 states. So I've traveled, I just haven't lived anywhere else. Question, top 5 underappreciated 80s movies. Oh my god. Oh, that one is so difficult. Underappreciated and 80s. Honestly, that line between 80s and 90s blurs for me some. So it's really difficult to pick out what was 80s. I think in the 80s was Buckaroo Banzai, so that's immediately on the list, because that is an underrated 80s movie that deserves all of the hype. I'll be right back. I'm going to do a quick search to remind me what's 80s. Ooh, okay, there's a few right off from the search. Dune, the 80s version of it, while they did change quite a few things from the book, it was still one of the first real instances of sci-fi trying to push the boundaries of the movie industry. They made a grand epic, and I think the movie just barely broke even or something like that. But it was still an example of how sci-fi could be taken as a very serious storytelling form. So I think that one is definitely underappreciated. Willow is another one. An absolute romp when it comes to a fantasy adventure, starring Warwick Davis and Val Kilmer, actually. It's underappreciated. There's so many people that have never seen it that really need to. Stand and Deliver. I know it's still recognized under some of the award circuits, but there's so many people that don't know about the movie anymore. Edward James Olmos, Lou Diamond Phillips, one of the better dramas that I've seen, and it needs more attention than it gets in today's world. They Live is a good one. Roddy Piper. It was definitely a large commentary on ads and who controls what. It was a very good example of that. Most of the movies from the 80s here that were worth it are well known, so it's not like they're underappreciated, although there is one final one, Big Trouble in Little China. Because Big Trouble in Little China, if you've never seen it, go see it. Holy crap, it is 100% worth it. Let's see. Next question. What tyrannical leader from the past would you most like to have dinner with, and why? Honestly, I would probably have to say Hitler. Either that or Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great had so much working against him when it came to expanding the empire. They didn't have vehicles. They didn't have supply lines in the way that we do now. So moving his troops, conquering territory, it was very much a conquer and pillage to keep the troops going. That created such challenges, and the man took over continents. So that kind of drive and thought process, did he just tell someone, hey, go conquer this, and left it up to his generals? Or did he actually have the strategic know-how of directing how they should do it? Hitler, because psychology has always been a passion of mine. I love trying to figure out how people think. So just having that discussion with him, obviously I agree with absolutely none of his beliefs, but trying to examine the mind of the man that is considered one of the greatest tyrants of all time, that would be fascinating to me. So I think that one, there's the answer. Let's see. The final question that I have is, from what I've seen so far, what kind of bender do I think I would be? Whew. That really is a tough one. Maybe Earth? I don't think I'd be water. I know I'm not angry enough to be fire. Once upon a time, maybe. But be either air or earth. At this point in life, I would probably have to say earth. So, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, that's my Q&A. If there are any other questions that you would like me to answer, I am always taking notes. So leave them in the comments. When I got enough that I think of videos together for it, you know what? I'll record another Q&A. Doesn't have to be for another 1,000 subscribers. If you folks actually want to know about me, I will tell you. Just ask the questions. Please remember, you are a power. And I say that because you are all the ones that are making this channel possible. If it wasn't for you guys, this channel would have nothing. It would have no traction. It would have no views. It would have nothing. I'd be talking into the ether. So you and your power are what is making this channel function. You are changing my world by clicking buttons. Congratulations. I will see you folks in the next video.